start our adventure at the Overlander Roadhouse, where we turn off the highway onto Shark Bay Road, bound for the Eustace Loop track, to none other than the westernmost point on the Aussie mainland, Steep Point. Eustace Loop is about 50 k's from the Overlander, and there you've got a mix of gravel, bitumen and corrugated roads to reach Steep Point. The first 100 odd k's are actually pretty good. Freshly graded gravel and the bitumen make it easy. It's not until you cross the first ranger station the fun begins, and that's where we're crossing now. We let our tyres down to about 10 psi, but we did find that it was too low, so we stopped and reinflated them to 20, and that worked just right. A few people warned me how bad this track can be, and I was actually surprised at how good the condition was. Don't get me wrong, I've heard some horror stories from this track, but I guess we were lucky. There was a lot less corrugation than I actually thought, even though our spotties did rattle loose. We reached Steep Point in just under 3.5 hours from the turnoff, so it's not too bad by any standard. We camped out at the oven overlooking Dirk Hartog Island. Quite a windy camp spot, but a pretty good view. You can't have campfires, so we had to improvise. We were up early in the morning for our barge departure over to Dirk Hartog Island. It only takes about 15 minutes, so it's not that bad. You usually try and leave in the morning so the winds don't pick up in the arvo, and it's actually a pretty smooth ride. Our first night on the island, we stayed out at Notch Point. It's on the east side of the island, just north of the homestead. It took us about 40 minutes from the barge to get there, and there's only this little bit of soft track to get in there. Other than that, it's just corrugated tracks. Pretty easy. Moving further north, you'll find old remnants of the old sheep station that used to be on the island. The island was used for many, many years as a sheep station before the sheep were eradicated. All sheep, goats and feral cats were eradicated a couple of years ago, and has since begun a project to return the island to back to 1616 as Dirk Hartog may have found it. These sand dunes are travelling through here. The track's actually pretty good. It's quite compacted. There's a fair bit of traffic that comes through here. It's about the midway point up the island. Pretty much the only route to get up north, up to Cape Inscription. The track's pretty good condition. It's pretty compact. 20 psi should get you through no problems. Moving on, we came to Dampier's Landing and we got bogged. So we're bellied out on the beach here. We were down to 10 psi at this point. We'd already tried to recover it once. We're solo. We've got 4 max tracks, which we ended up getting down to 3. I lost one. I've never lost one, but I lost one on this trip. The sand here is like powder. I was just trying to turn around on the beach. I should have known better to lower the tyres first and a bit more speed. But we got out, which is the main thing, but just down 1 max track. So we made it to Cape Inscription. This is the point where Dirk Hartog came about just over 400 years ago and left his pewter plate. It's the first ever artefact from Europeans left on the West Australian coastline.
Where have we just pulled up to?
Urchin.
Got a bush duck. I mean, someone don't have to go do a bush poo. So she's pretty happy with that. And we're just going up to a little fisherman's shack. There's some pretty good waves out here. Oh, you can drive up here. No. It's like an old little fisherman's shack. Oh, we've got old mate hanging up here. We've also got an old snake. Fried crispy. Pretty sure this is a little day use area. It's pretty cool. Don't know if you can camp here.
Coming down the west coast of the island, we stayed at a place called Quion Head. This is the rocky outcropping that you have to cross to get over. It's not too bad. It's a little bit confusing, but once we saw the other side of the track, we knew, well, the camp must be that way. Coming over the hill, you can see the waves crash into the cliffs as the swell rolls in. When the swell gets up here, this is where an inland saltwater river is formed. You can see it just there in the middle of the screen. Usually at night, the waves will crash over the rocks and form this little river, which then flows out to the other side. It's pretty cool to see. It didn't happen when we were there. There was a little bit of water left in it, but still pretty cool. We spent one night out here, and it was by far the windiest night we had out on the island. Moving further down the west coast, you come to the Blowholes. These things sounded like a jet engine going off. Moving further south again after a bit of rain, this time we're headed out to Surf Point.
Where are we?
Dirk Point, Dirk Hartog Island. Sanctuary zone there. Fishing zone out there. Be some big fish out there. The island's great for land-based fishing. You can target bigger species than we did. To be honest, we were just throwing our line in, going for whatever we could get. It would be better on the west side, I think, out in the deeper water, but the weather was pretty bad when we were over that side, so we just didn't bother going. Go back to Dirk Hartog. Probably wouldn't go the 6 nights that we spent in the weather that we went in. If the weather was good, we could have done a lot more snorkeling, a lot more swimming. But in saying that, we still had fun on our 6 nights out there. You definitely need to go check out the island for yourself at least once, just from a historical point of view. For the hardcore four-wheel driving, it's not really what everyone else makes it out to be. It's mainly corrugations. But if you take the time to explore the island like we did, I'm sure you'll enjoy it.